On August 4th, 1857, George Edwin Taylor was born in Little Rock, Arkansas, to free black Amanda Hines and slave Nathan Taylor, although 2 years later, the Free Negro Expulsion Bill was passed, which stated that all free blacks must leave Arkansas or become slaves. So George and his mom moved to Alton, Illinois, which was the center of the Underground Railroad. His mother died of tuberculosis in 1861 or 1862, which led to George living in storehouse boxes for a while. A month after the Civil War, when he was 8, he landed at the docks of La Crosse, Wisconsin, on board the Hawkeye State, and stayed with a black cook by the name of Henry Southall. Even when the Southall family moved away, George stayed in La Crosse, living on his own, until a judge forced him to go to an orphanage, where he stayed until he was 20, when he was enrolled in Wayland University in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin, until he dropped out after 2 years. Later, he moved back to La Crosse and got married to Mary Hall. He even started writing for many local papers, which eventually led him to writing for Chicago's Inter-Ocean, even getting him a job as the editor of the La Crosse Democrat, the papers whose top owner called for the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. While living in La Crosse, he was very politically active, supporting the administration of the Working Men's Party mayor, Frank White Beaver Powell, and becoming a secretary of the local Working Men's Party, and created a state affiliate for the People's Party. Although he was constantly reminded by his race by other members of the labor movement, Taylor later disappeared for 3 years, only being quoted as saying that he went west. He later resurfaced in Oskaloosa, Iowa in January of 1891. He was now a staunch Republican and shifted his focus from labor to race, even joining together with Frederick Douglass to become a liaison of the African Americans to the GOP. In this time period, he owned a newspaper called the Negro Solicitor. 2 years later, he married Cora Buckner, who was a writer for the paper and was 16 years younger than him. Yeah, his last marriage didn't end so well. He later moved from Oskaloosa to manage a lead mine in Coalfield, Iowa in 1900, though Cora refused to go with him, and they divorced. At this time, his tenure as a Republican was very short-lived, because Iowa's Republican leadership wanted him to be the GOP's liaison to organized labor, as they already had Franklin Douglass to be the African-American liaison. So when he shifted to race-based politics, they lost their use for him. Between 1900 and 1904, he rejoined the Democratic Party and became president of the National Negro Democratic League. He did so in order to help combat Southern Democrats enacting Jim Crow laws and Northern Democrats just letting them do so. Though much like the Democratic Party, this group was fracturing over the issue of bimetallism, plus things like Southern Democrats' support of lynching and the rise of scientific racism made Taylor decide to leave the Democratic Party once again in 1904. But as he left, the National Negro Liberty Party, a political party with the platform of black disenfranchisement, insufficient career opportunities for blacks in the United States military, ending U.S. imperialism, public ownership of railroads, self-government for D.C., the banning of lynching, and giving pensions to ex-slaves. After having their convention and having their nominee William Thomas Scott being arrested for not paying a fine, they asked Taylor to be their nominee, which he accepted. And they unveiled a plan to run 6,000 candidates for local offices in areas with sizable black populations alongside Taylor. I couldn't find any info regarding a running mate, so I'm unsure if he had one. Though unsurprisingly, the idea of having 6,000 candidates was a lot to handle for a small political party such as this, and they quickly fell through. And to add insult to injury, Taylor and the NNLP was forbidden from appearing on state ballots due to his race, much like Victoria Woodhull's candidacy, so any votes they received weren't counted. William Scott estimated that Taylor received 65,000 votes nationwide, though again, there's no evidence to verify that number. Afterwards, Taylor returned to being an activist for the NNLP and the Democrats. The Democrats even made him a police officer. In 1908, he made a keynote speech to a union convention of black political leagues that were held in Denver, Colorado. That convention organized the National Negro Anti-Taft League and supported the candidacy of William Jennings Bryan. Later, he moved to Florida and went back to editing newspapers. Later, he supported the candidacy of Teddy Roosevelt in 1912, stayed relatively active in progressive groups, and died in Jacksonville, Florida on December 23, 1925. And that concludes the story of the first African American to run for president of the United States. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that bell to be notified when a future video of mine comes out. And if you're interested in more political content from me, you can go to my website or follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Quora. or check out my articles on the Independent Political Report. What are your thoughts on George Edwin Taylor? Do you think he was ambitious for his time, or do you think he probably should have picked his battles? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below.